Why should you be excited for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition? Yeah, that's pretty much it, because it's good. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. No, I'm kidding. There's way more to it than just that. So let's get started. I'm sure some people were a little confused as to why Nintendo saved Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition for the final game to show off in the previous Nintendo Direct. But as a Xenoblade fan, this was huge. This was as big as the next new 3D Zelda, like the Breath of the Wild sequel, or even as a lot of us were loving to speculate that they could have announced a sequel to Super Mario Odyssey, which I do still think is happening, just not this year, sometime next year. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is as big as those games in my opinion. You should be excited for this game because it's a remake of one of the greatest games ever made. My favorite RPG of all time, the best RPG for the Nintendo Wii by most people's opinions, and by most people's opinions who are critics, they've even said it's the best Japanese RPG for that generation, including the Xbox 360 and the PS3's lineup of games. Now I'm sure some of you might just hear that and think, oh, that's just hyperbole, he's exaggerating. I'm not. These are things that people have actually been saying. Xenoblade Chronicles is that good. It really is an incredible RPG experience. This game did so much with so little power back on the Nintendo Wii when it first came out back in 2010. But the game actually didn't make it to North America until 2012. Nintendo of America didn't feel that that kind of game would work out in the States. But given the situation of the Nintendo Wii and that generation, there weren't really that many great RPGs that were doing well from Japan. The JRPG genre was sort of paling in comparison to Western RPGs. And the Wii itself just didn't have that many hardcore games at the time, and American fans saw this beautiful game, Xenoblade Chronicles, was available elsewhere, and it was not available in the States. So eventually there was this fan campaign called Operation Rainfall, which was a campaign to bring over 3 different games to North America. The Last Story, Pandora's Tower, and of course, Xenoblade Chronicles, and eventually Xenoblade Chronicles came out in 2012. And the game saw raving reviews, as I said. Many people consider it to be the best RPG of that generation. It's an incredible game, a masterful game, and for me, it's right up there with the Mario or Zelda. I would even say I prefer it over Super Mario Galaxy 1 or 2 in terms of my favorite game on the Nintendo Wii. And the Galaxy games are some of the most highest rated games of all time, and I love them, but Xenoblade Chronicles was special for multiple reasons. Firstly, the mechanics of the game, the actual battle system. It was a fresh take on the whole Japanese RPG tropes of how you do combat. You do combat in real time by selecting arts. Your position is very important as to what kind of effects your arts will actually do. It's very interesting, and it's not too different from what you've probably already experienced or have seen with Xenoblade Chronicles X or Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but there definitely are some differences. Like I said, there's more of a priority on when you use your arts and where you use your arts in the original. But they also eventually implemented a mechanic where you could see the future, and it was up to you to change that future. Oftentimes you might be fighting a giant epic monster boss and it's going to kill your teammate. You see the vision and you have 10 seconds to change the future. But this changing the future motif was not just for the gameplay but for the story as well. And the story was actually a very strong story. It's incredible, really. It's a long game, an epic story with twists and turns. The characters are all very interesting. Their chemistry together is very strong. The voice acting, very nice. It was kind of pretty awesome to see Nintendo of Europe to publish the game so we could have that kind of voice acting, and I think it worked out really well. A lot of American fans have come to love the British voice acting, which is why we have the voice acting that we have with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But I remember when I would play this game, there were multiple moments in the game where I thought, this has to be the end of the game. I've been playing this game for so long. Yet the game just kept going. It's just a huge epic fantasy RPG experience, and it was an amazing adventure that left me teary-eyed at the end and definitely had a great impact on me, just kind of like you would with an incredible movie or book. The story was very strong, but the impact of that story was made even stronger with the music. The music is just, well, as you'll probably hear in this video, wonderful. One of my favorite, no, not one of, the favorite startup screen of all time for me is the Xenoblade Chronicles start screen. That screen with the Monado plunged into the ground of this sprawling green hill with the sky in the background, and you just slowly see the day-night cycle carry over with these beautiful sunsets and rises and the music playing. It would make me incredibly emotional, and there were times I would just leave it on for hours listening to it. It's that good. It's special, and the start screen music isn't the only example of this incredibly impactful and awe-inspiring music. It's all throughout the game. The score in this game is wonderful. But there's one more element of Xenoblade Chronicles that I think makes it very unique, and that's the scope and the art style. The world you explore in Xenoblade Chronicles takes place on two giant titans. Now when I say giant, bigger than any sort of titan or creature you've ever imagined, really. These two titans, these beings that you see fighting each other in the opening cutscene of the game, are basically continents, and eventually the titans stop fighting. And eventually life starts up and you live in it. You explore this world, these titans, they are continents. So there will be one giant massive open area, probably bigger than almost any open area you've ever explored in a video game, and that will just be the kneecap, or the foot, or the arm of the Bionis. Which is another really interesting element of Xenoblade Chronicles that I think makes it even more special than its successors such as Xenoblade Chronicles X and even Xenoblade Chronicles 2. While Xenoblade Chronicles 2 definitely had times that you could explore and you could see them moving in the background as you would explore its back or its belly, you couldn't really get to the other parts of those giant titans. In Xenoblade Chronicles, while you only explored two giant titans, you explored them in great detail, including the Bionis. You would go everywhere. You'd go through the heart, the spine, the back, the shoulder, the arms, the legs, the head, all throughout, inside and out. You would explore the Bionis and you would see the different parts of its body and the Mechonis, the other Titan, and how they are in relation to you. It's always awe-inspiring, and it just makes exploring the world way more interesting than pretty much any other game. It's not just a flat plain or even a mountainous plain that looks like what you would see in real life. It's something that you would never see anywhere else. The art style and scope for Xenoblade Chronicles really were unmatched for the Nintendo Wii, and that shocked people. This game on the Nintendo Wii was just kind of unreal to think that they were able to create a game of such scope on such a limited system. There was one part of the game, and unfortunately I don't remember the name of it because it has been a few years since I played Xenoblade Chronicles. I'll put a name in the video so you can see it. But it's this area that has these giant waterfalls, and in any other game, you'll look down and you have to imagine if you fall, that's it, you're done. Except the thing is, when you jump down, you plunge all the way down to the bottom of the waterfall, and you fall in and you survive, and you realize, holy smokes, you can still explore this entire area. It's actually one massive area that goes even beyond what you can see. What Monolith Soft was able to accomplish on the Nintendo Wii was, quite frankly, shocking. I don't think many people ever expected that kind of game to ever happen on the Nintendo Wii, but it did. Granted, there were limitations. The faces for all the characters in Xenoblade Chronicles were a blurry mess. But that's the thing. With the remake, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, all of these shortcomings, all of the limitations that held back Xenoblade Chronicles in terms of fully expressing its beauty will no longer be there. This remake is a full-blown remake. There's new geometry and lighting and artifacts and things going on, the textures have been entirely enhanced, and the characters are completely new models. They just look incredible, and they're clear. But what's even more interesting is that we can now see their expressions a lot more clearly. They can emote, there's a lot more animations to the actual facial expressions, which will only help to sell the story and the voice acting even better than ever before, which is just going to lead to an even more impactful experience, which excites me. It's going to be really wonderful to re-experience this game. But this is going to be more than just re-experiencing the game. This is going to be a new experience, not just because the visuals have been entirely redone, but because we already know this game is going to have new content. At the end of the trailer, they showed the Bionis' shoulder. This was an area of the game that was actually cut that was not playable in the original version. There's going to be a whole other huge open area to explore that I can imagine will have its own quests and maybe even some story elements as well. I'm honestly not sure what other sort of new areas they could add for this game, but the door's been opened for even more new content, so that alone is really exciting. And like with any remake or remaster, especially from Nintendo, they are going to focus on quality of life changes. So any sort of limitations or aging that the game has gone through since it came out back in 2010 will likely be rectified. I can imagine that if some fans aren't too in love with the idea of grinding, they will implement the option, like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where you can go somewhere and have yourselves leveled up significantly so you don't have to really deal too much with grinding. They'll probably come up with different difficulties to make it easier or harder for different types of fans, and I'm sure there will be even more changes that I can't just think of off the top of my head that will make this game even better. But the thing about Xenoblade Chronicles, minus some of the visuals, the game was beautiful and an incredible experience. was nearly flawless. It was a beautiful game, and to see it remade with enhancements and new content and just looking incredibly beautiful, it's going to be a new experience, an epic experience, and it's an experience I think is going to be very lovely and very suiting to come out 10 years after its original release, a 10-year anniversary in 2020. It's going to be special, and I'm just as hyped for this game as I am for Breath of the Wild 2 or a potential Super Mario Odyssey sequel that I think might come out next year. But regardless of whether those games come out next year, this game to me is likely to be a shoo-in for Best RPG of the Year and maybe even a Game of the Year candidate. This is huge, and for all of these reasons, you should be excited for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. If you are a fan of RPGs, when you play Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition next year, you may come to love it just as much as I, and it may be your favorite RPG of all time. But those are my thoughts, guys. I think very highly of this game. I think it's going to be really special. I think you should definitely consider it. Have you played the game before or not? Do you plan on getting it? I'm curious what you guys have to say, so let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching. This is AndresRestart. I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.